And we have a student from Johnson College, Jordan Bowen, who is going to introduce our guest speaker. So Jordan?
Hi, my name is Jordan Bowen. I am a senior at Johnson College in the radiology department. I'm introducing today Krystal Paulin. Krystal Paulin is the founder and CEO of Grant Clarity Coaching and Counseling. As a certified public accountant, Paulin transforms financial data into actionable insights, empowering women to make informed decisions aligning with their big visions. She awakens the CEO mindset and slurns and helps busy women reclaim their title. Certified as a life coach in 2021, Paulin formalizes years of experience guiding people through work, life, and self-discovery. With more than 10 years of physical and strategic expertise, she now owns an supports entrepreneurial women as both coach and consultant, providing clarity and strategy to achieve the dreams today, not someday. Paulin holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from Binghamton University.
Thank you. All right, hi everyone. Oh, I forgot I had a mic on. I thought it's coming here. Okay, I will try to stay in one spot. I also try to make sure I don't talk too fast. I tend to talk quickly when I'm excited. But I'm very excited to be here. And before we start, I would love to know what you'd hope to get from this session, like the things you're thinking about when you saw what it was and said, I think I'm going to go to that one. Does anyone have something that specifically they were looking to gain from this session? Okay, making better decisions or making decisions more quickly. Great. Anyone else? Sure. Okay, shifting perspective. Anyone else? I saw one up here. Great. How do you go from where you are to where you want to be? I think I saw one more around here. Oh, that's a good one. Hold on. Not that the others weren't, but I touch on a lot of it. But navigating the change. Okay. All right, wonderful. So I'm hoping everyone's in the right place. And if you were trying to get somewhere else, you were supposed to be here, so get comfortable. And we're talking about CEO mindset today. And so I'm going to start with sharing a little bit about what that looked like for me. Hopefully this advanced technology. Oh, I did it. So we're going to start with the story, just that what I experienced essentially in creating and defining my own CEO mindset. So before I graduated from college, I had a full-time role with one of the top accounting firms in the country. And most of my peers hadn't even started interviewing yet. And so in many ways, I was ahead of the curve. But at the same time, I thought that that was what was supposed to happen because I'd followed the rules and I did what was expected of me and what people wanted me to do. So on paper, again, I'm winning. But in reality, particularly when I entered the workforce, is that every day felt exactly the same. I was a super commuter. Some of you may understand what that means. I was traveling in New York 3 hours a day, going and coming for work. I was exhausted. I was uninspired. And for me, I was still doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so I chalked it up to, well, this is what I went to school for, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what's expected of me. One morning, I'm rushing to catch my train. I could hear it pulling into the station. It might have been a little bit earlier than expected. And I could tell because the other commuters around me all started to get into that frenzy when we're all trying to get to the platform. Because if you miss the train, it's a process. And anytime you're in that rat race, you know. For me, I'm in the frenzy and I trip and I fall and I hit the stairs during rush hour. pride be gone. Now, why was I scrambling? I was scrambling not only to make it to the platform, because I was trying to get to the office early. Not on time, but early. Why was I trying to get there early? Because my team kept showing up before 9 a.m. And every time I walked in, I felt like I was behind, or that I was missing something because I was the last to arrive. And that frustrated me. I didn't like that feeling. My peer walks in. This is later that morning. I've arrived. My shin is bruised, but I'm still walking. And she shares that she works, or her walk to work is about 20 minutes. And that morning, I should have known something was up because her hair was still wet. And to me, I'm like, you had time for it to air dry, but her hair was still wet, and she had a venti caramel macchiato. I'm like, you had time to stop for coffee? And I realized that I was in this weird predicament where I felt like I was running a race that I hadn't signed up for. I didn't like that feeling. Later on that year, I was able to accept an opportunity to take a sabbatical in order to study for my CPA exams. It was about 4 to 6 weeks, and I could just focus on preparing. That day, before I left for the start of my sabbatical, I run into a senior manager in the office, and she stops me mid-conversation and goes, "Wow, you look amazing." I'm caught off guard because I thought we were talking about documentation. But it stuck with me that she had this response to like my appearance that day, or just the way that I was moving. And so for the rest of the day, I kept trying to figure out what was different about me that day than any other day. I chalked it up initially. I'm like, maybe this is like a pre-vacation glow that you get when you're just like, whew, no commute. But when I really sat and thought about it, some of the differences were I'd worn a bright blue pattern top that day, which was not the standard black or gray that we wore in public accounting. I also knew that I was smiling more that day, and not like a kind of like half smile, you only use your cheeks. It was a full-bodied smile. I felt lighter that day. And I realized I wasn't carrying the weight of trying to keep up. In choosing to take that sabbatical, I had chosen something I was excited about and chosen something for myself. So time passes, I come back from the sabbatical, I re-enter work, I'm re-energized by having that time off. I go on to pass my exams and all of those things, but I realized that coming back, I wanted to come back on my terms. I wanted to come back being the person that my senior manager saw that day before I stepped out for sabbatical. So over the years, I began choosing things on my terms. I chose things that aligned with my vision. I chose things that weren't necessarily expected of me, but it was things that I wanted. That choice led me to eventually take a year off from work, which sounds bonkers to many, but it also led me to take 4 months and live and work elsewhere. That's where these pictures are from. I moved to Barbados and worked in Barbados remotely for a short period of time. And I say that to say, when I was in college, I didn't get a semester abroad because where I wanted to go didn't fit with the business curriculum. I would have been behind, I would have had to stop going to classes with my friends, and essentially would have had to extend my time in college. And not doing 4 years was not a possibility at the time. And so I realized that even though I didn't get to do a semester abroad in the beginning, I got to create a semester abroad for myself in the future. And I realized 2 things. 1, your dreams will never leave you. So that desire to kind of go somewhere else and go somewhere new and immerse myself was always there. And 2, I get to choose. You also get to choose. So for me, a CEO mindset is meant for you to take ownership of your decisions. That's what it was for me. It was allowing me to take ownership of my life. And when I led with my vision, I found the people I needed to find. Things just seemed to always work out, and I could make the decisions that supported my goals. So that brings me back to today and what we're going to talk about. Too often, we follow the path that's laid out for us without asking if it fits us. So in centering a CEO mindset today, we're going to talk about how to reconnect with your vision and make decisions that feel aligned so you don't just look good on paper, but your moves can help you choose the life that you want. So let's get into that. All right, so this is my definition of a CEO mindset. It's not about having a team or a title. It's about taking ownership of your vision, and it's about how you lead with clarity, intention, and strategy. So question for you all, When you think of a CEO or a chief executive officer, what words come to mind? Leader, vision. Anyone else? Resilient. These are great words. So, these are all great descriptors, and these are all things that can help you think like a CEO, because you can embody those characteristics in the way that you move. So, I'm going to share 6 qualities. These are essentially our core CEO qualities that I believe embody that CEO mindset. The first one is decisive. A CEO must have vision. By raise of hands, how many of you are hesitating on your next step because of your uncertainty? You're not sure if it's going to work out. You're worried that it's going to go wrong. Thank you for those of you that are like, yeah, it's me. Being decisive, it means you choose even when it's hard. Being decisive is defining your vision and having the courage to both own it and share it. And there's one young woman I've been working with for several years now, and every time we get together, she has a bigger, brighter, bolder vision for her life. But in the beginning, when she first shared that first vision, she had the courage to say that out loud. She got back from her family and her friends, the people that are supposed to kind of surround her and love her, she got back every way that it could go wrong. So, for her, her vision was so strong that it didn't matter how much noise was coming from the people around her. And so she held her first event, and the result of that was she was able to build momentum, she was able to create new connections, and she was able to get feedback. So, she didn't wait for the clarity in order to start. And that's what decisiveness is. You let the clarity come through your action. The next thing is informed. A CEO makes decisions based on facts and knowledge. Have you ever had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom in a brand new place? So maybe you're at a hotel, you're staying with a relative for the first time, maybe you're a Girl Scout, you went camping, and that first night you're like, where's my mom? It's very easy to bump into things, right? You can stub your toe, you're moving slowly, and what you're really doing is you're feeling around for your limitations. You're not able to move. But what happens when you turn on the light? Even if it's a little light, your path gets clearer. Suddenly you can see better, you can move faster. So being informed is like turning on the light. So whenever you're trying to figure out what to do next, it's about getting information so that you can make better decisions. Illuminate what it is that you're trying to do. Next is strategic. A CEO devises a clear and focused plan. I was working with a new mom, and she'd been running her business, obviously, before the baby. And once the baby came, she was still trying to operate in the same way that she had before. Anytime a request came in and she had to submit a proposal, she was customizing each proposal for every single request. You and I both know that that is not a sustainable process. So I asked the question, do you need to customize every single proposal? We talked it through, and we determined that for those requests that there was already an interest, and they kind of knew that they just wanted to work with her specifically, that she can develop a simplified menu of offerings. What that did is it cut down on the proposal time drastically, because now you already have it ready to go. It's easy to essentially plug and play. It made her process more efficient, and she didn't lose any value. That is strategic thinking, and that's how you also want to move. Next is aligned. A CEO keeps their vision in sight. Ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. I had to stop and ask myself, I'm like, why am I falling on these stairs? What am I doing? What is the purpose of this? For me specifically, I just didn't want to be performative, is what I started feeling like. I was trying to get to work to look as though I was there before everybody else, and that wasn't why I even came into this business. That's not why I went into accounting. It didn't match up. And so I had to figure out what aligned for me. I worked with a dance studio, and this woman had 2 jobs. And so she needed a little bit of help with operational efficiency. And so in that sense, she had overlapping schedules because she was coming from her other job to get to this place. She was taking payments manually, so only when people walked in the door. And also her branding was inconsistent. Her Facebook said one thing, her Instagram said another, her website was an entirely different name. And so we took some time and we aligned her brand names, corrected everything so that you can easily find her everywhere. And then we added online payment options, specifically for when she started a new cycle. The result of that is that it made enrollment easier. We saw a 58% increase in her signups. Not only that, but we saw a 63% increase of the amount of clients that were paid in advance. Before this, she would only know how many people were coming in when they walked in the door. But this gave her some time to prepare and know kind of spacing and what she would need for a class. So by doing all of this, she had less administrative work, she was able to make more revenue, and she was able to spend more time focused on the dance. And that's the alignment you want to find. When your systems align with your vision, the momentum will follow from there. So the next thing is accountable. A CEO owns their responsibility. I hosted a Q2 goal resetting workshop. Resetting because you started at Q1, you had goals back then. Some people forgot them. January 19th is usually the day we let the resolutions go. So by Q2, you're essentially resetting. What is it that you do want to do? Because maybe what you thought in January, you didn't think in March. So we had a session, and a few of the women there were talking about their fitness goals. Two of the women, when they left, they connected and said, let's keep talking about what we're trying to do. And the two of them started sharing their daily updates, they're sharing their progress, and they're sharing their challenges to kind of push each other to go. I heard yesterday about one woman had posted a picture of the Haagen-Dazs she was going to buy and decided against it. And she said it was a challenge, but I got through it. And it essentially helped the group just remember, what the goals were. This is not to say you cannot buy Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Just saying in that moment, she knew that she didn't need it. As she said it's a habit, not a need. So she was working on that. But accountability is a tool you can use to maintain your progress. It's another thing to keep in mind. And the last quality here is flexible. A CEO adjusts their perspective. Sometimes we think things need to look a certain way. Another woman I worked with was a fitness instructor, and she had to stop her in-person classes because she was going out for surgery. She was going to need downtime for recovery, and in her mind, everything had to stop. But we asked the question of, well, what can you still do? So during the pandemic, she'd done virtual classes. She had a system of payment that worked online, so she didn't have to physically be present. And so what she began to do is she began sharing breathing exercises, meditations, gentle movement online. So in that way, she's been able to stay connected to her students, and her mission gets to continue. Flexibility is another CEO strength. It keeps the mission going, even when you kind of have to change the method. So looking at the 6 core qualities here, CEO qualities, are there any that you see that you know that you can improve on? Mm-hmm. Nice. Great example. Anyone else? Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. And it's also, I'll say this too, accountability is sometimes hard if you're used to doing things on your own. If you're the one that has it. I know I'm the responsible one. I'm the eldest sister. It's one of those, I got it. And off I go to go handle it on my own. And so the reality of that is also sometimes being able to tap into other people and then having to essentially be the one that's being monitored, quote unquote. We don't like that feeling because we were always the one that could kind of shift and move on our own. Everyone's like, oh, don't worry about her, she has it. So I understand that. But yes, think about those things that you need to work on or where you can find some improvement and just look at it through a different lens. So now we have a baseline, right? Here are some qualities that will help us kind of embody what a CEO is and kind of stick to that mindset. But how do we translate these characteristics into results? And I will tell you, it's by taking action. There's two things you'll hear from me. It's about choosing and it's about taking action. Those are always going to be the two things. So in order to do that, what I can share with you is something called the CEO Mindset Roadmap. And it's going to be two parts. One is building your map, and two, it's packing your toolkit. You see the navigation? You see that? So the first thing within the step one, which is building your map, is setting your destination. Now, when I used to work with the team, I would always have like my virtual whiteboard, which was literally just me doing this. And I'm like, look at the screen. So this is my virtual whiteboard. What you want to do with setting your destination is literally take a pin and just put it anywhere on that map. Because you're creating it. It literally can start in the center, it can be the top corner, it doesn't matter. Because the key there is to identify what it is that you're trying to do and where it is you're trying to go. So, okay. One second, got turned around a little bit. All right, so the first thing you want to do is set your destination. Your destination is your vision. Your vision is all you. If you don't create your vision, someone else will. So keep that in mind. So maybe you want to write a book, maybe you want to sell pastries, maybe you want to have a family or buy a home. Maybe you want to teach Pilates or learn how to paint. Whatever it is, make it real. So that means adding color and depth. That means adding topography. So whatever that blank page looks like, you're the one that gets to fill it up and fill it in. So next thing is finding your compass. Can anyone guess what your compass is? I heard something quiet. Your values. Anyone else? Your heart? Or more? Okay, we'll go with values and heart. All of those things tie into you. Your compass is yourself. Where are you right now? And I don't mean that physically, but when it comes into relation to your goal, where are you in that moment? It's your starting point. So you want to see, if I want to write a book, have I written before? Is there anything that I have in draft? Have I taken a creative writing course? Maybe I've never put any words on paper. Regardless of where you're starting, but you need to know where you're starting from. So that's the point of finding your compass. And once you find your compass, so let's say, going back to that virtual board, and you look to where your pin was, and then you look to where you are, you can then see which way you have to go to get to your destination, whether you're north, south, east, or west. So your compass will provide direction. And so in one context, this is all talking about kind of the ways that you move, but the other part about your compass is also looking at where you are mentally. So when I had told my HR person that I was leaving, so I was leaving the firm, and what are you going to go do? I said, I don't know, I'm going to take a year off. She was like, she said, I would love to do that. And my response was, you could. And she said, oh no, I couldn't do that. And I was taught not to argue with my elders, so I let her have it. But I fully disagreed with her thought that she couldn't do it. My choice to take the time off was not something that I came up with overnight. I had planned, I had prepared, I had made sure that I would have what I needed in order to take the time. So it wasn't something that it's a fly-by-night decision. It was something that I prepared for, and I fully believe that she could prepare to do it the same way. It just means thinking through what has to be true. But sometimes where you are is a place of lack, and it's a place of disbelief. And when you're in that space, you don't think that you can do it. You automatically assume that it's not going to work. And that's okay, because Maya Angelou said, once you know better, you do better. So once you find out that that is kind of the way that you're operating, you can take the time to adjust that thinking for yourself. So how many times do you start with, I can't? Someone shares an idea, or they tell you something that they're excited to do, or they want to invite you along, and your first response is, I can't do that. Maybe the first thought can be, well, what's possible? And let's start there. So my hope, really, in this is that even if you find yourself in doubt, my hope is that you count yourself in before you count yourself out. Just start there. All right, the next step here is to plan your route. This essentially is you now have a destination, you now know where you are. That route is just what you need to do to get between where you are currently and where you want to go. That step is literally any action step that gets you closer to your destination. Any step. Just about any, because I know there's some distractions that you think are a step, but it's really just a distraction. But ask yourself, what can you do to take you closer to your destination, and what will bring you closer? So that's step one, right? We've now built our map out. The next thing we're going to do is pack your toolkit. And here you're going to calibrate your compass, fuel your drive, and adjust your mirrors. And what does that mean? Calibrating your compass. You know that your compass is you. If you're following a GPS, this is a question for you. If you're following a GPS and you miss your turn, what happens? Reroute. You have to find a new path to get to where you were trying to go. But your actual destination does not change, just the way that you're getting there. So calibrating is literally it's a review, it's a check-in, it's an adjustment. So where are you in relation to your destination? Are you in alignment, or have you gotten off track? So the other part about alignment, I'll tell you about when I moved to Barbados. Before I left, I knew I needed somewhere to stay, because you can't just show up and then figure it out when you get there. That may be the type A's. Type B's may live that life. But for me, I said, okay, where am I going to live? And I knew that in order to live this dream, I needed to be comfortable. I wanted to feel safe. I also wanted to make sure that there was some separation between the work I was doing and the rest that I was going to take. So that was another thing to pay attention to. I knew I'd be cooking for myself, so that was something else. So when it came time to look for a place, I specifically looked for apartments that were on a second floor, or just not a ground floor. I specifically looked for a fully functioning kitchen, and I looked for a place that was a one-bedroom where I could close the door essentially on everything else, because I'm essentially living in one space. So that's a way to keep yourself aligned with what you're doing, and to make sure that you're not going off track. Calibrating also considers your budget. So if you have, and this is for anyone that's running a business or trying to figure out kind of where to spend their funds, look at your budget. Some people think, oh, just spend less, that's always going to be the answer. That's not always the case. Sometimes if you have a budget for new technology, but then you don't purchase that technology, are you still on track? You're not, because that technology was a need in order to keep moving you forward. So you want to look at your budget. Where are you spending your money? Where are you not? And maybe that ability to, or that choice not to spend money on that technology may be a hesitation that you have, where you're questioning whether or not that technology was the right choice, right? So calibrating includes considering your budget. It also includes any milestones that you have met or heading towards. And essentially, when you're calibrating your compass, you want to keep assessing and reassessing where you are in relation to your goal. You can pick the timeline to do that. It's up to you how quickly, how often you want to do it, but you should be doing it periodically. The next thing is to fuel your drive. What structures, support, or boundaries do I need to stay committed to this journey? This is literally all your resources. One nonprofit I work with, they used time, talent, and treasure. Has anyone heard that phrase before? And it spoke to when you are doing anything, your resources are not always going to just be people. Sometimes it's going to be the funds that you have. It's going to be the products that you can barter or things that you can sell in order to fund an activity. And it's also going to be the time that you take to do all of that. So time, talent, and treasure was a great way to kind of put into focus what resources are available for you. So check out your resources to fuel your drive. And then look at who you have on your team. So for those people that have a team of more than one, right? Or if you are transitioning to a role where maybe it's just you to begin with, right? In that scenario, it's a team of you. But look at who's around you. Who can you connect with, or who can you talk to that will help you move through your challenges? And maybe that it might be time for you to build your own board. And I think that's a task that is the most helpful as you're kind of growing and building. Find your business bestie. We're here with a bunch of beautiful people. And that means that there's someone here that might be able to relate and align to what you're doing. So think about that also when you go into networking this evening. But build your board. The other option is to nurture your connections. That might mean, it's a nice way of saying networking, honestly. I know a lot of people don't like the word networking. It feels like one of these, like, I want to do that again. But nurture your connections. A lot of this is about relationships. And so when you do those things, you're able to figure out kind of how to move and you get some guidance, because one of the toughest parts about doing this on your own, particularly when you're starting out, is that you don't have somebody to go off of, to kind of bounce ideas off of. So you want to find someone that you can do that with. And ideally, you can find a group of people that you do that with, people that you trust, people that are supportive but also will challenge you. And the last resource, which is really the first resource, is yourself. You can't drive your car on empty. So you need to make sure that you're refueling yourself. You want to make sure that whatever you need to do, whatever tips and tricks, whatever ways that you stop to kind of get your energy, that's something that you make sure that you do. There was a time when I would come home from work and I needed 30 minutes to stare at the ceiling. Nobody talked to me. And it was something that I realized that it helped. I was exhausted. The commute was long. I was tired. And so I would get home, my brain was working for the time I was in the office. Commuting was its own challenge because of delays, and this train decided they wanted to stop here, whatever. By the time I got home, I just needed 30 minutes to just be. And it helped so much. So figure out what those things are for you, and you want to make sure that you kind of stick to those ways for you to refuel. And lastly, adjusting your mirrors. So this is about perspective, right? Where do I need to zoom in? Where do I need to zoom out? The reason that you're hesitating often, it's not confusion. It's most likely fear. It's fear that you're going to choose wrong, and it's fear that you're going to fail. Here's the thing. There's a 100% chance you're going to fail. And the reason I say that is because there's a 100% chance that you're going to learn something. Every failure, quote unquote, is really just an opportunity to get additional information. So I was working with a young woman who she's getting ready to launch a styling business. And she sends her first pics to this brand new client. She sends these pics out, and the client hates all of them. She doesn't like any of them. She's like, ooh, no. She came back to me and she's like, oh my God, I failed. I'm like, you didn't fail. You just got information. You're gathering more information. You're learning what your client likes and doesn't like. And now you can make better picks now because you've gotten some clarity on things that work for her that don't work for her. You're not always going to hit it out the park on the first swing. But that doesn't mean you're off track. But it does mean that you're in the game. So stay in the game. Some people, they have one trip, one bad fall, and they're like, I'm done, I'm walking, I'm not doing this anymore. But you don't have to do it that way. So that, again, is your CEO mindset roadmap, building your map, packing your toolkit, giving yourself the ability to move forward on your journey. You have everything you need. You've built your map, you've packed your toolkit. So what's next? What's next is up to you. I can share that as a clarity coach, I help mission-driven leaders move themselves forward with clarity and direction. That priority for me is focus, it's action, it's them choosing, but it's also building confidence and using strategy to move things along. This is some of the ways, right? Choose your next move. For me, the ways that I can help, I offer one-on-one coaching. I also do solo retreats and intensives, which are VIP days or strategy design sessions. And those are all meant to help move you forward, where you're getting yourself stuck. Sometimes you need another set of eyes. But the most important thing for you to do is to choose. There's a quote I found here that I was cracking up when I saw it, but you don't need more time, you need a decision. We sit, we wait, we think about it, we talk about it, but we don't choose. Take the time to choose. So, most important thing for you to do, choose, and then take your next step. Here's some takeaways. Priority 1, get clear on your vision. It's probably the least thing to talk about because all of the things that come into vision is what you're going to create, so spend the most time there. Then you're going to make decisions that align with your goals. Then you're going to reiterate that process because you're always going to be checking in to see where you are in relation to your destination. Once you've done that, connect with the people around you. Get accountable. Keep moving yourself forward. And then lastly, do the impossible. Because when you're working through whatever it is that you're trying to get to, you're going to reach it as long as you're working towards it. So it's impossible until it's done, and it can be done. Oh, wait a minute. Right here is this call to action. It's my call to you, my CEO call to action for you. Today, before your head touches the pillow, please take one action towards your goal. And you all have a goal, whether you've written it down or not. There's something you've been thinking about. There's been something that you've been trying to pretend you don't know. It's there. So take one step towards that. Maybe it's a text message that you need to send. Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's a purchase. Maybe it's an investment. Whatever it is, do that today. Take the first step towards what it is you want to do, and then do it again tomorrow. But we're only going to focus on today. And if you do it, which I hope you do, let me know about it. I would love to hear. And yeah, if you scan the QR code, there is a workbook where you can sit and do this on your own. I wanted to make sure everyone could listen and just kind of take in what they can. I think it's always good to process, but sitting down and kind of working through your vision, writing down the action steps that you can take, and then taking that into account, that's something that you can do. So you can follow that through the QR code, and there's contact information to reach me as well. I also have business cards if you want to grab one. I tried handing some out. And that's about it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, we have time for some questions. There were none in the Whova app, so do we have any questions from anyone in attendance here? Oh, you guys are too quiet. Not a question in the room for Krystal? Come on.
No worries. Actually, so I know that, so someone had asked the question about navigating the change from kind of working for someone to working by yourself, essentially, or becoming the boss, essentially. And I think the biggest change there is that you just have to fully grasp that you are the chief decision maker in your business. When you work for something, or you work for someone else, you work for a company, they have to make all the decisions. You just have to comply with them. You're following their policies and procedures. But when you become the boss, you have to make those choices. And usually what happens is we avoid making the choice. That's the hesitation. That's the lack of decision making. That's the lack of choosing. Not the lack of choice, because you have choice. It's a lack of choosing. So when you're making that transition, just know that you have to make the call. So give yourself the deadline, and then you go and do it. Even if you have to delegate, you go and do it. So the choosing, the biggest thing I'd say in the transition is to make sure that you are making the decisions, be the decision maker.
Any other questions? Last chance. All right, I guess we'll dismiss you. Go out to the marketplace and see the vendors before lunch. And thank you, Krystal, very much.
Thank you.